Good evening! Tonight we're going to be discussing how to build a side-scrolling parallax starscape for your side-scrolling shoot-em-ups. You want to invest some time in this sort of juice because this kind of background suggests that the starship is actually, moving through space, while without it, it just feels like the starship is just kind of idly floating around in space. Uh, this looks like it could be some awesome, cool space pirate soaring through the cosmos, while this is just some idiot flying at night. This is cool. This is lame. So we're going to be discussing how to build this using Pixi.js. If you saw my last tutorial, I showed how to get started in Pixi.js and like what you need to do to get, what you need to know to really get started up. I'll link that in the description for reference. But until then, let's dive right in. So what we have here is a lot of boilerplate for using Pixi.js. We're importing a lot of libraries, we have some constants, a renderer, and a game loop that iterates over all of our components in the game. So let's go ahead and put something into the game. Let's say game.addChild new star. Of course, we don't have star yet. We haven't defined it. So let's define it. Class star extends pixi.sprite. And because we're extending something, we have to call the super constructor. And Pixi sprite requires a image or texture. So we can say Pixi texture from image. And let's use like images slash projectile.png just for now. If we render that, we should get a tiny little white dot in the corner. There it is. We can go ahead and position that. This dot x equals, or this dot position dot x equals width divided by 2, and this dot position dot y equals width height divided by 2. And I'll put it in the center of the screen. Dun, 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 dun. But yeah, that's too predictable. And most things in nature, including stars, are anything but predictable. They're chaotic and they're all over the place. So let's randomize the position instead of hard coding. Let's say math.random, which will give us any number between 0 and 1. So if we multiply that by a value, it'll give you a value between 0 and that value. So math.random.width, math.random times height. This will give us our x between 0 and 230, and our y between 0 and 130. And every time we refresh the page, our white dot will be in a slightly different position. Hey, nice. So what's neat about this is that now that we have stars randomly generating in different positions, we can, have a whole bunch of stars. Woo! Look at that. A randomly generated starscape. Every time we refresh the page, a different set of stars. There is, of course, a much better way of doing this, and that's in a for loop. So for var I equals 0, I is less than, let's say, star count I plus plus. We have to define star count up here. Star count, and let's make it equal to like 25. So yeah. But this is kind of boring, right? They're just kind of standing still. Let's make them move across the screen. And we can do that with an update method. If we give our star an update, this will be called in our game loop. It'll check if the child has an update method, and if it does, it'll call it. So we can say something like this dot position dot x minus equals this dot speed. And we're going to set this dot speed to be equal like 1. If we do that, all the stars will start scrolling to the left. You'll see the issue right away, though, is that we've lost our starscape. All the stars have left off the screen. And the way we're going to counter this is that in our logic, we're going to reuse stars. So as they fall off the screen, we'll loop them back around. So it looks like an infinite star screen, but it's really the same 25 stars over and over and over. So here we're going to say, if this dot position dot x is now less than 0, set this dot position dot x to width. So whatever goes behind this 0, we're going to jump up to over this 230. There we go. It's a little choppy because we're not waiting for the stars to get off the screen, and we're not spawning them off the screen. So if we did something like if this.position.x is less than this.negative width, we'll make sure it gets fully off the screen. And then let's invert how far it's off the screen, and then plus width. And that way, it'll only ever wait till it's off the screen, and it will reappear on off the screen. So there's never a point where it just suddenly appears on the edges or disappears off the edges. You'll notice right now, as it is, whenever a star goes off, it reappears in the exact same position. To make it less obvious that we're just reusing the stars, we can also say this.position.y equals math.random.height again. And if we do that, then it'll re-randomize its position up and along the y-axis every time it goes off the 0 of the x-axis. So yeah, this is a scrolling starscape. The white stars are a little boring, to be honest. So let's make it that we can color them. I think I prepared the colors already, but these were in the wrong format. We want these colors here. But the way that Pixi accepts colors is only as hex values. So let's say static get colors x0, 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 x0. So yeah, these are hex numbers, and we're going to return that get colors, return an array of these colors. So we're just going to establish our color scheme here as these 5 colors. And here we can say something like this.color equals star colors math.floor math.random times star colors.length. We're basically saying here is we want a value between 0 and 5, and we're going to feed that into our star colors array. So we're just going to get a random element of our array. So now if we do that, we don't have just boring white stars, we have boring white stars. Right, well, we haven't used this color yet. Here, we have to say this dot tint. That's the keyword in Pixi for coloring things. So this is tinting all of our previously white little images with those different colors, each a random color from our array of colors. These are totally just the colors from Star Trek, by the way. Yeah. So the final feature that we want to implement before we're really done with our Starscape is parallax, like, suggesting some depth. Our Starscape right now feels a little flat, and we can suggest as if some stars are farther away or some are closer by moving them at different speeds. If we move some faster, that means they seem like they're closer. If we move some slower, that means they're farther away. You see parallax in all sorts of games. Shovel Knight does it really well. It's a really cool effect. It's really easy to do. All we need to do is modify speed. And let's modify it such that like a third of our stars are slower than others, and another third of our stars is a bit faster, and a third of our stars are the fastest. And we can do that here in our constructor. If we give each star a value of I, modulo 3, that'll give us a value like 0, 1, or 2. 0, 1, or 2, depending on what index it is. And that's plus 1, so now it's 1, 2, or 3. 1, 2, or 3. Now the star has some notion of what section it should be in, and we can go up here and in our constructor accept that. And let's call that like the parallax factor. The speed now is no longer just hard-coded to 1. We'll say parallax times 0.5. So it's either going to be 0.5, 1, or 1.5, depending on what parallax is. And there you go. You have this notion of depth, where some are farther away and some are closer. Some are moving slower and some are moving faster. And there really isn't much more to it than that. Building a starscape isn't really difficult, and the effect it provides is really worth it in suggesting movement and depth. There are a couple of different effects that I didn't touch on that you can experiment with to improve the effect, including like uh, messing around with different colors or with more stars or less stars. Increase the maximum speed to make it seem like the player is moving extra fast. And if you are moving extra fast, you can make the stars wider than they are taller to make it look like they're really streaking by. You can mess around with the size relative to the parallax. So like stars that are farther away are smaller, and the ones that are closer are bigger. You can mess around with rotation to make it look like they're twinkling as they spiral across the starscape. But those are all things I'll leave for you to experiment with. As always, I've uploaded my code to a gist, which I'll put in the description. And I want to reiterate that this implementation, although I use Pixi, you can build it in anything and everything. The effect just remains the same. Thank you so much for joining me tonight, and until our next tutorial, have a good one.